The African National Congress will be briefing the media shortly on its upcoming disciplinary hearing against its former president, Jacob Zuma. The South African Council of Churches holds a prayer for peaceful elections. And thousands of Israelis protest in Tel Aviv to demand that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu accept a ceasefire agreement with Hamas that would see the remaining Israeli hostages brought home from Gaza. Welcome to the week ahead here on the SABC News channel. We are live with you today from our Johannesburg studio. You can interact with us on social media platforms. It's @weekahead and our hashtag is #TheWeekAhead. You can also call us on 011 714 0680, 0681 or 0682. I'm Gustav Freyland. Good afternoon and thank you very much for joining us. Now, following the murder of popular DJ and comedian Peter Mabuse, known as Mashata, the scourge of gun violence has raised renewed fear and calls for stronger action against unlicensed firearms that are often used to terrorize and kill people in communities. Communities, especially in townships around Pretoria, say they are living in perpetual fear as contract killings are the order of the day. They want urgent and stronger action against individuals who own unlicensed firearms, as this might cushion communities against gun violence.
Mamelodi, one of the townships in Pretoria known for some of the most ruthless criminal activity and contract killings. 2021 resulted in a bloodbath in Mamelodi as members of the extortionist gang Boko Haram were assassinated, some in broad daylight. Some politicians and businessmen that were also assassinated in the capital city, especially ward councillors, sent shockwaves throughout the country. The recent murder of Mashata put the spotlight on how easily available illegal firearms are, often a weapon of choice in contract killings.
Slaughtering somebody the way they were shooting at him. I just want to know, how did it come that so many guns are in South Africa like this? And I know some of the people, guns are like toys in South Africa, especially Mabopane Soshanguve. How come that there is no maybe patroller? They come here when there is a scene, but you will never see them running around protecting. There's so many crimes happening.
Apart from Mashata, several other prominent people from Pretoria have been assassinated recently. A top specialist doctor, DJ Somebody, DJ Vetis, Maar5, and many other ordinary people in the capital city all became victims of gun violence. Jugulan in Soshanguve has become a no-go area due to the spate of violent crimes, especially gun violence.
I think they are not helping us because of, as the community of Jugulan, we are concerned about many issues. As the beginning of this year, there were a lot of activities that involve gun shooting, hijackings that have been happening. Just imagine 4 young people shot. Among them, there was a young schoolgirl.
Police personnel, when we call them, they don't respond. Instant, when they respond, sometimes they arrest the person now, and then in 3 hours or tomorrow, the culprit is back. The culprit will come to you and say, there's nothing you can do to me. I know the police will bribe the prosecutor, will bribe the detective. So it's a challenge for us.
Gauteng Premier, who recently visited the Mabuse family after Mashata was murdered, assassination style, reiterated that the threat is not necessarily guns, but contract killings that are on the increase in South Africa, especially in Pretoria townships.
That's one in particular, the area that we're in. We can't allow it to be a war zone. So the police must really step in, because I can tell you, no one is safe here. No one is safe. No one is safe, regardless of your standing in society. We can't allow our people to be scared of their own shadows. So there is a plan, there are resources allocated to attend to this matter. And I remain hopeful. People of Tswana will also know what peace is.
Police stats showed that gun-related killings increased with over 30% in the last 5 years. And areas like Soshanguve have become an easy playground for ruthless and trigger-happy criminals.
As the police, we are very concerned, but I must say that we have prioritized the area because of the killings that are happening. There's a team of detectives. We are working together with crime intelligence to make sure that those that are responsible for the killing in this particular area are brought into books. They must be arrested. We are all out. We also have the additional human resources, the tracking team that is busy identifying these criminals.
The Gun Owners Association of South Africa says there's a strong link between unlicensed firearms that are often used for contract killings and the country's poorly guarded borders.
It's the porous borders that we have. Firearms have been flooding into the southern African area for many, many years. During the liberation struggle, I mean, there are free firearms. You can buy an AK-47, you can buy all these semi-automatics. You do not regulate an illegally possessed firearm. You remove it. You arrest the person who is in possession, you prosecute him, and these firearms are then destroyed. That's what you do. And the police are failing dismally in that part.
Following the calls to ban firearms in society, Grobler says this will be a fruitless exercise that will only harm the economy and empower criminals.
Quite honestly, you cannot and you will not ever ban firearms completely. That's number one. Number two, if you do ban firearms, only criminals will possess firearms because they don't have legal possession of them. In other words, you will be destroying a whole industry if you ban firearms.
Research also shows that multiple murders where several people are killed at once have been on a consistent increase in South Africa. Most of these killings are committed with unlicensed firearms, a contract killing phenomenon that was mostly prevalent in KwaZulu-Natal but has since infiltrated the whole country, especially Pretoria. With South Africa's alarming murder rate that's increasing consistently, no one is spared as organized crime like illegal firearms and contract killings have become a disturbing reality. Not even the judiciary is safe anymore after reports of a judge that was followed by unknown men while driving in his car. Fearing for their lives, community members have called for stronger gun control measures, hoping this might reduce gun violence and the spate of senseless killings in South Africa. Patricia Fasachi, SABC News in Pretoria.
Now, let's turn our attention to stories that made headlines in the Sunday newspapers this morning. And joining us to elaborate on those newspaper reports is Rochelle de Kock, who is the editor of The Herald. Rochelle, good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us here on The Week Ahead.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for having me.
Let's start now with the Sunday Times, and we see this one story in more than one newspaper today. The Sunday Times headline, Oil Giant Shell set to exit South Africa. BEE shareholders seek billions for their stake in one of South Africa's biggest empowerment deals. Can you tell us more about this story?
Yes, of course. So basically, we've got two of our Sunday papers that are leading with this very big story, Sunday Times and City Press, that are reporting that, this world energy giant, which has been operating in South Africa for more than 120 years, is on the verge of exiting the country due to what appears to be a fallout with its longtime BEE partner, Tebe Investment Corporation. These newspapers are reporting that there are seemingly plans to inform, staff and as well as other stakeholders of the intentions to leave the country. Of course, we know that this would be a massive blow as this company employs thousands of South Africans at various, hundreds of garages across South Africa. I think City Press reports about 700 outlets, Sunday Times about 500 outlets. So it's going to be a massive blow, and it would appear that this 22-year relationship between Shell and Tebe, which at the time, and over the years has been regarded as one of the most successful and transformative BEE associations in the country, soured after TEB's proposal to sell its 28% stake in Shell downstream. So now it's understood that these shares are valued at a whopping $200 million. And if you convert that into rands, that's 3.7 billion rand. And this is perhaps where, the newspapers are reporting, that's where the stalemate is, and that's where they began to lock horns. So, the Sunday Times is reporting that Shell intends to divest 72% stake in STSA, and has already informed Energy Minister Gwede Mantashe, as well as Trade and Industry Minister Ibrahim Patel, on its intention to exit South Africa. There have been questions around the timing of this, of course, with the elections just mere weeks away, and what kind of implications that will have, and what kind of message that sends about whether or not South Africa is the place where foreign investors should be coming to pump their money, if one that's been here for over 120 years is seemingly on its way out.
Right, let's move on to the other stories. Well, City Press has got the same story, of course, Shell to exit South Africa. But there's the stories around the MK party and Jacob Zuma. On the Sunday Times front page, ANC puts Zuma hearing on ice amid fears of violence. Of course, that story is developing, and we are waiting for an ANC briefing on that specific one. Also in the Sunday Times today, Zuma's plea for recusal, that's on page 2. And in City Press on page 2, the MK party at war with itself. Talk to us about all of the news surrounding the MK party.
Yeah, geez, I think the MK party is all that we're talking about in recent weeks. We saw that when the ANC decided that, okay, it's going to go ahead to charge Jacob Zuma and hold him before disciplinary hearing, the response that came through from the MK party was, oh, well, we'll be coming out there in our buses to come and support and defend Jacob Zuma. And the Sunday Times is reporting that the ANC felt that there was going to be a response from its members and supporters to come and want to defend Luthuli House, and that could lead to a violent clash. And there were fears, seemingly, of a security threat. But I think the ANC Secretary General will be briefing us a little bit more on that any moment now. So, basically Jacob Zuma, fighting, seemingly wanting to remain a member of the ANC. It beggars belief why he hasn't already left if he remains the face of another party. But this is the challenge that we're sitting with. He's being charged for misconduct, for publicly stating that he intends to vote for.
Okay, Rochelle, I'm going to interrupt
party.
you right there. I'm sorry, but we are now going to go to Luthuli House because Fikile Mbalula is about to speak to the media.
On the election campaign and political issues in our environment, and we know that what is key for you in the political environment is the disciplinary case, which will clarify. This briefing takes place 23 days before millions of South Africans will exercise their hard-won right to continue authoring their collective destiny by voting and entrusting their democratically elected representatives to continue working for and with them to do more, together to build a united, non-racial, non-sexist, democratic and prosperous South Africa in which all enjoy a better life. This briefing also takes place a day after we celebrated what would have been the pre-centenary birthday of Comrade Ruth First, journalist, academic, political activist, who was born on the 4th of May 2020, who was born on May. Her life was brutally cut short by a parcel bomb sent to her office at the Eduardo Mandlani University in Maputo by the murderous apartheid security apparatus. The life and struggle of Comrade Ruth First bears bitter testimony to the fact that our freedom was not free, but attained through commitment and the supreme sacrifice by brave women and men. It also underscores the non-racial and non-sexist character of the struggle against apartheid colonialism. Over the past 30 years, the people of South Africa, led by the ANC, have been at the forefront of a movement to construct a new South Africa. Our country has come a long way. We have made incredible strides and achieved so much. However, even after 30 years of freedom and democracy, our journey towards the South Africa that our people truly desire is far from over. We still have more hills to climb. In the 2024 elections, we'll therefore go beyond celebrating accomplishments. We'll learn from the past, from mistakes and setbacks, as we learn from achievements. The fundamental question for this year, the 30th anniversary of our freedom, is whether South Africa's transformation from an apartheid, colonial, patriarchal, and divided past may be halted or reversed, or whether the democratic renewal, national rejuvenation, and socio-economic transformation agenda shall gain new impetus. The ANC-led Alliance election campaign continues to escalate and move from strength to strength as ANC members and supporters go to every farm, village, and township, to every town, city, and suburb, to account to the people, placing the ANC manifesto into the eager hands of our people as we seek a renewed democratic mandate to defend and advance the gains of 3 decades of freedom. The spirit of our volunteers is soaring, fully embracing President Ramaphosa's vibrant call to action, Mahlo Mihlasele. On Wednesday, 1st May 2024, the Revolutionary Alliance of the ANC, SABC, COSATU, and SANCO held massive and successful May Day rallies in all provinces. The National May Day rally was addressed by President Cyril Ramaphosa. These rallies showed the determination of workers to defend and advance the gains made by the working class over the past 30 years against the threats posed by reactionary and anti-transformation forces. This dynamic phase of our campaign has been marked by the inspiring presence of ANC stalwarts, former President Thabo Mbeki, former Deputy President Kgalema Motlanthe, former Deputy President Didi Mabuza, and former Treasurer General Matthews Posa, joining forces with our dedicated volunteers. Together, they are engaging in open dialogues with South Africans, acknowledging past challenges, but more significantly, celebrating our collective triumphs over the last 3 decades. As the momentum builds, more stalwarts are joining the campaign trail in the days to come. Details of such will be communicated as programs are finalized. Thanks to the steadfast efforts and progressive leadership of successive ANC governments, South Africa stands proudly united in its rich diversity, claiming its esteemed spot within the global community. The ANC's vision for South Africa is the vibrant bond that unites us, igniting the full potential of every South African to boldly shape their future. It's a vision that not only binds us together, but also propels us forward towards a destiny of our own making. In the coming week, 6 to 12 May, a massive collective of leaders of the Revolutionary Alliance, the full National Executive Committee of the ANC, the Central Committee of the Communist Party, the Central Committee of COSATU, the NEC of SANCO, as well as the NECs of the Women's League, Veterans League, Youth League, Young Communist League, will start a week of intensive campaigning in KwaZulu-Natal. This intensive election campaign trail is both unprecedented and an innovation. This afternoon, President Cyril Ramaphosa will address this leadership collective as it prepares to engage citizens across the length and breadth of KwaZulu-Natal, joining thousands and thousands of ANC volunteers on the ground in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. The following week, 13th to 19th May, the intensive campaign trail moves to Gauteng province and beyond. The ANC is taking groundbreaking steps on digital platforms. This week we launched ANC Connect, our exclusive podcast channel on YouTube that brings the pulse of the liberation legacy right to your screen. This was launched with the first interview with the President of the African National Congress. Dive deep into the heart of our manifesto, where we lay out a clear, actionable plan for an overwhelming victory and a brighter tomorrow. That's not all. Tomorrow we launch a revolutionary My ANC app, your one-stop digital hub for interactive dialogue and comprehensive campaign insights. This is more than just an app, it's a movement in the palm of your hand, connecting you to the change you want to see. Announcements will be made on all our social and digital media platforms, so be sure to follow, like, and engage with us. As we stand on the brink of a defining moment, the Siyanqoba rally beckons us to the iconic FNB Stadium on the 25th of May 2024. Alongside, we will launch, as we started in the Free State in Putadichaba, where the President addressed the Siyanqoba rally in Qwaqwa, Malutia Pofung, that will be followed by other provinces throughout the country. This is more than a gathering. It's a clarion call by President Ramaphosa and the ANC for unity and collective action. This massive gathering will be preceded by provincial Siyanqoba rallies in all provinces on the 17 to 18 May 2024 as build-up activities for the national rally. We stand united, resolute in our vision for progress. And it's time for every South African to heed this call. Together, let's forge a path of shared success and endeavor. We call upon all South Africans to join us as we rally our spirits and efforts to do more together. The future is ours to shape, and every step we take is a stride towards a brighter, shared destiny. Let's make history together at the Siyanqoba rally. Your presence is the catalyst for change. Let's do more together. However, we know that there are social and political forces that are working hard to undermine the gains of freedom made over the last 3 decades. They want to stop the march towards a united, non-racial, non-sexist, and prosperous country that truly belongs to all. The counter-revolutionary and anti-transformation forces are converging in 2 pacts, while at the same time seeking to fragment the forces for change through splinter groups and small parties that will contest the ANC. Another counter-revolutionary and anti-transformation tactic is to ensure that the ANC is locked up in internal struggles that will weaken and destroy it from within. They actively encourage rebel breakaway groupings to erode the support base of the ANC. Often these start as factional conflicts within the ANC, but when the movement pushes ahead with its renewal, they mutate into opposition parties that are as opposed to the ANC as the right-wing opponents of transformation. Some of these parties masquerade as more radical than the ANC, but their revolutionary sounding rhetoric cannot hide the reality that they have common cause with the forces opposing transformation. The shared goal of all these forces is to deprive the ANC of the ability to use state power to effect change. As the National Executive Committee pointed out in its 2024 January 8 statement, I quote, "The ANC is committed to developing and, where necessary, correcting its members and leaders," close quote. However, as renewal gains momentum, those whose conduct is in conflict with our values and principles, the criminals, the corrupt, the careerists and factionalists, and those who actively work against the organization will find themselves outside the ANC. Some of these elements, including former leaders of the ANC, have through their pronouncements and actions clearly and unambiguously placed themselves outside the ANC through violation of its constitution, the solemn contract between the organization and its members, by, I quote, "standing in an election for local and provincial or national government, or acting as the election agent or canvasser of a person standing in such election for any political party in opposition to a candidate duly endorsed by NEC or PC, close quote. These members have, in the eyes of ANC members and society, effectively, quote unquote, constructively resigned or expelled themselves from the ANC. Notwithstanding this reality, the ANC is committed to the rule of law and following the processes set out in the ANC constitution, including disciplinary processes. However, the leadership of the ANC is also committed and duty-bound to act responsibly in safeguarding the life and property of its members and the people of South Africa and the integrity and stability of the electoral process. The Constitution of the ANC enjoins the NEC and the Secretary General's office to respect the integrity and independence of the National Disciplinary Committee and to take all steps necessary to support its work, including ensuring the safety of its members. In pursuance of this duty and based on an assessment of the security situation prevailing at Luthuli House, the Secretary General's office was advised that activities that have the potential to attract large gatherings that might result in violent or disruptive behavior are not advisable, especially close to election day. This is exacerbated by the activities of certain political parties in organizing demonstrations and sit-ins at Luthuli House, disguised as neutral people, but within those marches and the sittings that have happened here, we have identified political parties which have organized such destructive activities along our building at Luthuli House. And we have taken steps legally to correct that particular situation. And we will further take steps even to the Electoral Commission to expose these activities of some of these political parties. It was in this context that the NDC was requested to be mindful of these concerns and consider holding in abeyance any disciplinary proceedings that require in-person meetings at Luthuli House until the 2024 elections. The ANC-led alliance and the broad progressive movement remains the only reliable force that is capable and that has a tradition of uniting and working with various social forces to advance the national democratic agenda. Unique among political formation in South Africa, the ANC has been able to work with workers, women, youth, progressive professionals, intellectuals, business people, middle strata, faith-based organizations, cultural activists, traditional leaders, and various community-based and non-governmental organizations to achieve social and economic change. The onslaught against transformation should make us more determined this year to succeed in building a better life for all and to be more deliberate and resolute about the renewal of the ANC, the broad democratic forces, and our society. At the same time, there are forces that seek to use this election to undo the progress of democracy. It is crucial that together we defend our hard-won freedom. In conclusion, the ANC remains committed to obtaining an overwhelming mandate from the people of South Africa to implement its 2024 election manifesto. Will focus on 6 priorities that are critical to speeding up transformation and improving the lives of the people. Our jobs plan, building our industries to include an inclusive economy, tackling the high cost of living, investing in people, defending democracy, and advancing freedom, and building a better Africa and the world. We will do better, we will do more, and we'll do it faster together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, SG. I'm going to take questions. The comprehensive statement on our update of our election campaign, and would like to take questions. Please just say who you are and your newsroom and ask a very brief question. I'll start on my left and then we'll move like that. Yeah, you do have roving mics then. Okay? Just give her the other one.
Hello? I don't think anything are working. Shall we just
Okay.
Good afternoon, colleagues. My name is Rebecca Kudashe from the SABC. I have a couple of questions. I don't know if we'll be able to take all of them, SG. But I just want to ask in relation to the disciplinary action that the ANC has chosen to take against former ANC President Jacob Zuma. I just want to know about the timing and what informed that. Because part of your constitution does say that you take action against members of the ANC, and on previous occasions, the ANC and its officials have said that he is no longer a member. Can you just clarify what is the timing? I also want to know if you will take Freedom Day. I also know the state of the governing party or its stance in relation to allegations that the state security has been unleashed allegedly on the SABC news. And there were also reports about the ANC president lamenting newsrooms over the coverage of ANC rallies and the ANC's election campaign, if that does not amount to interference as well. And the ANC had also indicated that it would take the trademark case on appeal. Can we know how far that process is? Thank you.
Thanks. Next.
Thank you. It's Kani Mapanga from SABC News. A question for the SG, Mr. Mbalula. You said that there was a security assessment that was done that informed the letter advising the NDC regarding temporarily suspending those activities that were supposed to take place on Tuesday. Now we know that usually where there are these events involving the former ANC president, that there are rallies held outside by the MK party. We saw it at the electoral court in Bloemfontein with both parties holding rallies outside the court, as well as the KZN High Court in Durban where you did the same, and both rallies were held safely and both parties emerged from those, court sittings without any violence taking place. So I guess the question is, what informed the security concerns with this upcoming hearing that was supposed to take place here at Luthuli House? And secondly, the letter in which you advised the NDC as a Secretary General, did that not undermine the NDC and its independence in performing its work despite the election campaign that's taking place? And then just to add to my colleague Zalega's question, the context upon which that is asked is that even though we know you did address this issue of the leaked audio recording in the last briefing that you held after the KZN High Court ruling, we know that the head of news had started that vetting process about 2 years ago and didn't hear anything until a few weeks shy of the elections, then being asked to come in for a polygraph, then raising concerns about the timing of this request right before elections. And we know the history concerning that role of the head of news in the SABC. So that is the context upon which the question is asked as to what is the governing party saying about this, because although that role is a top-level executive role, it's still considered an editor-in-chief of the SABC. Thank you.
All right. The last two questions aside. What is your name?
Kani Mapanga.
Kani.
Yes.
Sensible from Eyewitness News. I think my colleagues have covered me. I will have a question regarding the intensive campaign in KwaZulu-Natal. Is that going to be done in all provinces, or is this just KZN? Because I think we know, obviously, there is the streets of the MK party. Is that what this intensive campaign in KwaZulu-Natal is inspired by? Thank you.
My name is Lunga. I'm from the Mail and Guardian. Also, can you hear me? Yes. My question was also probably based on that the MK party, obviously, in most cases, they are in KZN. Is there any worry that there might be clashes between the ANC and MK party there? And what I wanted to speak to you about, Jola, is also the issue of the former President Kgalema Motlanthe seems to have admitted the list of the NC was indeed, the list of the candidates to the IEC was indeed changed. Do you have any knowledge of that? Because mostly what they say is when they gave it to you, to your office, the list seemed to have changed from there. Can you maybe say who was removed or who was added in that? And then the issue of the former president, the DC. I mean, you had previously said that there's no need to even hold a DC for Zuma because it expelled himself. But if you look at that guy from KZN, Dick Maverick, whoever joined, that guy who was also a parliamentarian, he joined MK Party. There was no need for a DC. Why is it that you feel, because it sounds selective, why is it that you feel that you have to now call former President Zuma to a DC when with him it was just an issue that is no longer a member? And also, the campaign by all the former presidents, it seems to me that you are blaming the regrets of the ANC from Zuma's years. It seems like him was the problem. Can you address that, SG, to say what has been the problem in the entire leadership of the ANC from the 30 years? Because it seems to be mostly focused on the Zuma years. And lastly, allegations that he's the last signatory of the ANC. Is that something? Is that true that is the last signatory of the ANC? And if it is, what consequences would that have on the ANC? Thank you very much.
Okay, we've got 14 questions. We should be very excited as the ANC that there's so much attention, right? Okay, so the SG is going to answer all those questions, and if there are any follow-ups, we'll then entertain follow-ups and then close the conference thereafter, right? Over to the SG.
Thank you very much for the questions. First, Zoleka, SABC, timing of action against JG Zuma. The events around Jacob Zuma have been very fluid and ever-changing, rapidly so. From the announcement of voting for MK to now becoming something else, leading the party, so to say. So they've been rapid. In between that, we need to remind you about the decisions the ANC have taken. The National Executive Committee, in its last meeting, before we launched our campaign, took a decision which we announced in public, that we invoke a rule in our constitution to formally take action against Jacob Zuma. And that led to the action of him being suspended as a member. Him being suspended, that means that the disciplinary processes kick in. And that means that within 30 days, you would have been given a charge sheet, which that has happened. Within 6 months, he must have been taken to task and explain himself before the DC in terms of the ANC constitutional prescripts. And that is underway. Nothing has changed. And from that point, it meant that Jacob Zuma is no longer a member of the ANC. He's under suspension, as it is. So the DC acts on its own in terms of implementing and undertaking the task of dealing with people who are alleged to have brought the party to disrepute one way or the other. And that's what they've undertaken, independent from all of us, which the NDC is the structure of the ANC and independent in terms of executing its mandate. So they've done that. Absolutely correct, within their right and their mandate. And that is what has led to the disciplinary case that is supposed to sit on Tuesday. So that's the first question I wish to clarify, that timing and action has actually been informed by Jacob Zuma himself in terms of how he behaves and how he moves in terms of his conduct as an individual member of the ANC, so to say. State security allegations. This matter has been clarified by State Security Minister, has been clarified by SABC. There are two statements in relation to this matter. One from the SABC, and that State Security have said that SABC is their client. They don't go around chasing people and vetting everybody at random. So SABC, as the client of State Security, if it decides, the board and the management, that everybody at SABC, at whatever level, must be vetted, that's the decision of the SABC. Now, the ANC does not get involved in the tasks undertaken by various institutions in undertaking the mission of exercising their management prerogatives. Their management prerogatives. The ANC cannot be seen to be interfering with that. And the SABC must clarify itself in relation to the statement they've issued, which I thought the matter belonged to the doorstep of the SABC. And the State Security Minister have clarified the issue. So from our part, that matter is closed. Unless if there is an infringement of the rights of individuals in relation to press freedom and all of that, of which the ANC has been very clear that we don't interfere with press freedom and the rights of journalists and journalists being harassed and all of that. We don't subscribe to that. But what happened within institutions in terms of management prerogatives, we can't negotiate that. We are far from that. Otherwise, we'll be accused of macromanagement as a party. So it's not a technical issue, it's a political issue that we can't macromanage institutions. We come from a bitter past of state capture, which meant that institutions have been macromanaged. In this particular instance, at the SABC, there is an independent board led there, I don't know the chairperson, led by the chairperson, and then that board have taken responsibility and issued statements. So I think SABC must ask the question to the SABC itself in relation to this particular matter. I've clarified the issue of we don't entertain in the ANC gossip and leakages. That a meeting was intercepted and President made remarks, and those remarks are now interpreted meaning that it's interference with press freedom. It's taking matters too far. What people discuss behind corridors of their own political parties is their own independence, and it must be respected as such. You can therefore not second guess what the president said and want to interpret it to meaning something that it did not mean. Let me explain to you. When we discuss, we look at the landscape and the political coverage in the country. Every political party, even small, they are concerned about how they get covered. So that's why political parties engage with media houses about how they get covered. And the ANC, as the largest political party in this country, I'm sure in your newsrooms you've got a difficulty how to cover us. We are not a one-man party. It's difficult to cover the ANC, and I'm sure you get complaints that you are favoring the ANC. But it's the nature of the political landscape in the country. The ANC is the largest political party. You can't help it. It's not. Today, as I'm speaking here, leaders of the ANC, including leaders, and other people are now crying foul. Why are former leaders helping the ANC? I mean, if Tony Leon tomorrow decides to campaign like it has for the DA, will I say, well, why? If he decides to defend the DA, will I say why? He's a leader of the DA. Our leaders have never crossed to another point except the one that you know, who has taken us on. And he's got a difficulty to explain that decision. He's contradicting himself every day about the decision he has taken to challenge the ANC as a former leader of the ANC. He's alone in that pedestal. with members of the ANC, some of them who have left because they believe in him as a person. But ANC leaders at any given point in time will stand up on their own up until Nelson Mandela. Remember when Nelson Mandela went to Eastern Cape, and then you journalists said he was frail, and then he sat there, Mandela, when he spoke, and then he said, Inkosi yethu ngumsholozi, nguyo sikhokhelayo ngoku, sonke we are behind Jacob Zuma. He came to Siyanqoba rally to endorse the ANC. And then you said the ANC went to fetch Mandela when he was frail at home and all of that and so on. And so that was not the issue. So the question is that ANC leaders have always supported the ANC at any given point in time, and they cannot be judged by anyone about standing for the party and supporting the movement. The trademark case is on course in terms of being taken on appeal, and it will be placed on the court roll soon, as we have been granted permission by the Durban High Court to actually appeal if we want to, and we have decided to appeal, and I've announced that point to you. Kenny, with regard to security concerns, what informed that? I mean, security concerns come from the state side and even our own security, and it's not up to me to reveal that, but to act, because we've got all the information. So we have informed the NDC, you are independent, and therefore we ask this matter be put in abeyance, because we don't want something that happened in the past, like when the DA came here, and then there was violence. It was minimal, and this one can be big. So we have stopped that, because the ANC disciplinary processes are internal processes. So the NDC is independent, but is a structure of the ANC. And if you read the ANC constitution, you will see there what is the role of the Secretary General of the ANC. I've communicated that decision of the officials to the NDC that this matter must be put in abeyance. Of course, there are people who say, no, Zuma must be taken on and all of that. We understand that. So nobody says the DC must be put in abeyance, but the time of it must happen at a particular time. So the DC will continue, and it is absolutely within the framework of the ANC constitution. So nothing is in violation of the ANC constitution. Neither are we interfering with it. So that is the case, and the DC is fully supported by the National Executive Committee, as communicated by the Secretary General to the chairperson of the National Disciplinary Committee. So there is no conflict between us and the NDC. I'm doing the job that I'm expected to undertake by the constitution of the ANC, working and interacting between structures, units of the ANC to communicate ANC instructions. Some of these decisions are instructions. They are not negotiable, some. But some are negotiable. But my job is also to communicate instructions of the ANC. The NDC, there's no point about it. I've addressed the issue of the vetting of the SABC, Year of News, and I just to emphasize the point that is the call of the SABC in relation to how it undertakes its work, and that is it. I wish to reiterate that we don't question managed prerogatives of institutions. So SABC is independent now. It's run there by the board, and it must be answerable and accountable to itself, but also to Parliament and to the people of South Africa. So they have explained their decision. I've read their statement in relation to this matter. Tabiso intensive campaign. Our campaign is not on intensive care unit. It's intensive, as you can see. I mean, ANC is all over. I mean that is the ANC capacity in terms of the election campaign. We know and we have explained that the vote to us will not be. It's not a given. You've got to go, convince, talk to people why they must vote for the ANC. And this is what our volunteers and our leadership have done. To us, this moment is very interactive because asking people to vote for you is equally to get the feedback, is to get a fresh mandate. And we know now, as we go in this campaign, that our manifesto is very consistent, but it's a very practical manifesto in terms of the things that we want to do as a government in the next 5 years. So we campaign everywhere, not only where we are faced with a threat. KwaZulu-Natal is not a threat, it's a densely populated province with biggest numbers of voters, where voters are found. So we have done this before. We will do this in Gauteng. They've been defined.
And that was a live media briefing by the ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula at Luthuli House in Johannesburg Central this afternoon, talking there about, among other things, renewal and then focusing on the disciplinary processes and those that find themselves outside the ANC, the big news story of the day, by standing in elections for other parties. In the eyes of the ANC, he said, they have constructively resigned. And he was talking there about the independence of the disciplinary committee. But he said because of security concerns with large gatherings then near Luthuli House on the day of the hearing, legal steps have been taken, as well as steps taken with the IEC, and explaining then the timing of all this, the in-person meetings should be done after the elections. Now, this is a developing story, and we are now going to speak to our political analyst that we have on the line from Cape Town this afternoon, Dr. Kuhle Zwakala. Good afternoon. He's from the Cape Peninsula University of Technology. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for joining us.
Yourself and your viewers, and thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, and let's get your response and your reaction to what you have heard now there from Fikile Mbalula.
Clearly, they've taken the advice of the leadership. I think the timing would have been somewhat off, considering the campaign election environment that we're in. So I think they've taken the right decision. However, I'm not sure whether this was worthy of a news briefing, because, I mean, it was very clear that the briefing was about the former president, Jacob Zuma. I know there was a preamble about the intensive campaign, Ruth's first birthday, so on and so forth. However, we knew that ultimately, even though there was no name mentioned of the former president, but this was ultimately clear that this thing is now postponed. I still don't think that this was worthy of an entire news briefing, because this still elevates, it still gives Jacob Zuma the stage. It still gives him the popularity and that of his new party.
So until yesterday, all of us thought that this was going to go ahead on Tuesday. What was your expectation of the MK party's response there? Do you think the former president would have been there and with large gatherings?
Yeah, over the years, look, he's had quite big crowds, be it outside courts, be it outside Luthuli. So definitely, I'm sure there were gunning support for a standoff with the ANC at Luthuli House. And I think it would have been ill-advised of the ANC to go ahead with this disciplinary hearing. You may recall that when Isma Khashoggi was suspended, they did take some time. So I think they truly listened in postponing this thing, and because I can't help think that these are really consequences of the mistake made in Polokwane in 2007, and the ANC is paying daily for that error that it made in 2007.
Talk to us about the significance of the rise of the MK party and where they are on the political spectrum in that sense, that they come out of the ANC. He said it there himself now that this is ANC people, it's Jacob Zuma, and they support him personally.
Yeah, of course. I mean, this is a splinter party from the ANC. I think Fikile then said that these emanate from factions within the party. But what I find problematic about not only the MK, there's 2 or 3 other parties in South Africa that gather either on race, relatedness or resonance or tribe. We should condemn such gatherings. The fact that the MK party is KZN based, it's largely Zulu supported because Zuma is Zulu. that we should really reject with contempt. It erodes the gains of democracy. And any other party that galvanizes support based on race or culture, or whatever the case. We're a diverse country. So such parties, as I'm saying again, there's one or two that galvanize support. It really erodes the gains of our democracy. So I see the MK in a similar light. Will they have an effect in KZN? Definitely, because they're based in KZN. Will that cost the ANC? Definitely. The ANC will shed votes, particularly in that province. But I think they've rolled their sleeves. They've got quite a noticeable campaign.
What do you make of the reports that we saw in the Sunday newspapers today about MK being at war with itself after the expulsion of those former members?
Yeah, this is not new. This is usually the case with breakaway parties. You may recall when the Congress of the People, COPE, Terry Lekota and Mazima, So at the inception of the party, they were infiltrated to what others called ANC infiltration. So there will be people that will infiltrate the party to try and divide and conquer it. So secondly, Jacob Zuma is just but a bigger figure compared to the person that is said to be owning or registered the party. So these were expected. This because now Zuma has taken over. He's a former president of the state. They've suspended quite a number of them, so it was expected. And anything that they may suspect is an infiltration, particularly from the ANC, I think they would quickly do away with.
Does he have the upper hand, Jacob Zuma, in terms of the events playing out? As he said there as well, that they're responding to Jacob Zuma's actions.
Look, let's not be naive. Jacob Zuma does have a following. He's had a loyal following, over decades. For wrong or right reasons. I've got a view on that. So he definitely is the bigger figure, as I'm saying now, and he has a huge following. And I think it's quite obvious, Gustav, that this MK party is growing in popularity, particularly because of Jacob Zuma. No one knew of the MK party prior Zuma joining their leadership. Now everyone is taking notice. They're campaigning. They're all over, and so they're a new party, and you can't. No one can avoid them.
Thank you so much for your insight this afternoon after that ANC media briefing. We were speaking to the Cape Peninsula University of Technology political analyst, Dr. Kuhle Zwakala. This is The Week Ahead on the SABC News channel, and we will be back right after this. ANC Secretary-General Fikile Mbalula has defended the party's timing in taking action against former President Jacob Zuma ahead of the May polls. The South African Council of Churches holds a prayer for peaceful elections. And thousands of Israelis protest in Tel Aviv to demand that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu accept a ceasefire agreement with Hamas that would see the remaining Israeli hostages brought home from Gaza. Good afternoon and welcome to The Week Ahead on the SABC News channel. We are live today from our studio here in Johannesburg. Thank you very much for joining us. You can interact with us on social media platforms. It's @WeekAhead and our hashtag is The Week Ahead. You can also call us here in the studio 011 714 0680, 0681 or 0682. I am Gustav Freyling. Now, the South African Council of Churches will today hold a prayer service for peaceful elections. The prayer is scheduled to take place at Grace Bible Church in Soweto this afternoon. Our reporter, Balentle Tetwa, is following the story and joins us live from the church. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon indeed. We are at Grace Bible Church just ahead of that prayer service where the South African Council of Churches has organized a service to pray for a peaceful election. Now, South Africa has always enjoyed a peaceful transition of power during the election period. I'm not clear as to whether this is the first prayer service of its kind. I am joined by Reverend Mzwandile Molo, who will be giving us a better sense of whether or not they do this every year. But we do understand that this year is one of those hotly contested elections with more political parties and new political parties as well as independent candidates. And this year's election outcome might produce a coalition at the national government level. And this is what analysts and political analysts and political experts are anticipating in the lead up to the upcoming elections. We are now going to be speaking to the Reverend who's going to just give us better clarity as to why. Now, talk to us as to why this service is so important and why you've chosen to pay for peaceful elections. And is it the first time we're doing this?
Good afternoon, Balentle. Good afternoon to the viewers. Thank you very much for being part of us here and carrying this feed to our people. The South African Council of Churches is not the first time where we are involved in the election nor praying for the elections. Those who are old enough will remember that 1994 was a very, very troubled time when we were preparing to get into the elections. And in that process, we needed to deal with the violence that was rife at the time. And that process produced for us what was called the Peace Accord, which was led by many of our faith leaders of the time. We were younger, some of us, but were inspired by their commitment to make sure that the elections that we are going to have at that time are going to be peaceful. Indeed, there were moments where things were on a knife edge, but because the church prayed and the church was a catalyst for peacemaking, it allowed the elections to proceed then. Throughout then the election season, we have been involved in similar attempts. Our churches at the membership level have been praying. Catholic Church have been praying, the Anglicans have been praying, and the other members of our community have been praying. Even here at Grace Bible Church, they've been praying for these elections. We are gathering now as a country to conscientize ourselves as a people that, one, we need God's wisdom as we're in this point. But most importantly for us, Mbali, to remind ourselves that elections are a national effort. It is not a preserve of political parties. It is all of us coming together based on the Constitution and based on God calling us to say, let us discern. Let us understand what we're doing when we choose these leaders for ourselves and prepare for ourselves to answer the big questions of our country. The biggest question of our country, Mbalentla, is not who wins or who loses these elections in terms of political parties. The biggest question is, what are we going to do to fight poverty? What are we going to do to fight gender-based violence? What are we going to do to heal the woundedness of our country? What are we going to do to bring all of us together so that whoever wins in the elections, we are all working together as South Africans. That is what God calls us to do and be. And as the SACC with other members who are of the Christian faith, we reach out to the nation and say to the nation, we pray together and we act together, and perhaps this country will become what we all hope for.
It's quite peculiar and quite interesting that this year, 30 years later, we have an official ceremony and you are drawing comparisons to the 1994 election. What stands out? What makes this particular election stand out? Yes, you have been playing a role as the church over the years, but I mean in terms of services and calling all political parties for a prayer session was last done in the 1994 elections. What comparisons can you draw from these two elections?
The first one is simply this idea, Mbali, that we should not be further fractured because of our political party identities. For us, it will be a wonderful moment for South Africa to see all the political parties in one space, not competing for any votes, but being present in the guidance and the blessings of God. It communicates a wonderful message, we believe, that we are all committed to building this country together. Secondly, we want to make sure that the police, we want to make sure that the IEC, we want to make sure that journalists like you, we pray for all those people because they contribute into creating creating an atmosphere, they're contributing to creating the integrity of the elections. When all of these people are prayed for together and we commit ourselves to work for together, we are hoping that we now have a national agenda rather than a particular party political agenda, because we lose who we are when we only identify ourselves to our political parties. When South Africa is bigger than my political party, then I will always act as a South African rather than just simply a supporter of one political party. And this prayer is an attempt to remind all of us of that possibility and that beauty.
And when you pray for the political parties, when you lay your hands on the different political heads, what will you be saying to them?
We will explain that at the core of it, what we are simply saying to them, three things we are saying to them. One, they are part of us. They are not from somewhere, and therefore they share the responsibility we share. Secondly, they're not enemies to one another. They are fellow people who have different opinions. Some of them might like the ideas, some of them might not like ideas. And because they are different does not mean they are less of a human from each other. And therefore, we are hoping to do. Thirdly, those who win, we want them to govern for the sake of everybody, not for the sake of the ones that support them. At the same time, for those who do not win a governing majority, they must remember there is honor in being in the opposition benches, because when you're in the opposition benches, you extend the accountability of our people that expect. So there's nothing bad about not leading, not winning the elections. The call is, if I don't get the governing majority, there's honor in sitting in those benches and holding the executive accountable, because if you do that, you're serving the country.
So what I hear you saying is that you're going to be praying for tolerance and acceptance of the outcome of the elections. Now, we've heard there have been comments that have been made by some political parties which suggest that, you know, if the outcome does not, they're not questioning the credibility of the IEC and so on, and are really making comments that are unsavory and, you know, unpalatable for the South African community and the South African mind. What would you say to those individuals? And would you also be praying for the IEC when you pray for the political heads?
Yes, indeed, we will be praying for the IEC. And we pray for the IEC to do its best to uplift integrity, transparency and credibility of their own institutions. But you are saying to everybody else, please, if you've got issues you want to raise, there are systems in our constitution for you to raise the concerns that you have. So for people to pursue that, so that we don't animate our people into spaces of anger. We are prepared to do that, and we continue to work for that. The last thing to say, Mbali, we are trying to work for observation mission, so that the voice of the IEC is not the only voice. Those of us in the church who want to observe can observe, so that we can add to the credibility of these elections.
Thank you so much. That is Reverend Mzwandile Molo speaking to us on the reasons why they have decided to organize this event, and saying that the last time they had an event of this nature was in 1994. Now we know that the upcoming elections will be hotly contested, and the Reverend saying that there is a need to pray for tolerance among the different political parties, and also to urge them to put South Africa first and remind them that we're South Africans before we are divided by the political parties or the political ideologies that people have. It is back to you in studio.
Thank you so much for joining us. SABC News reporter Mbalenhle Mthethwa live from the Grace Bible Church in Soweto at the South African Council of Churches election prayer service. Now, EFF leader Julius Malema is continuing with his party's election campaign in Khutsong, and our political reporter Ntlantla Khatlane is on this story and he joins us live now. Good afternoon. And what is the program looking like there today for the EFF leader?
Well, a very good day, Gustav, indeed, coming to you right here from Khutsong, northwest of Johannesburg, or rather in the West Rand, where, like you already said, the EFF leader continuing with his campaigning trail here in Gauteng, one of the much contested provinces in the upcoming elections. 24 days to go to that day. But yesterday, Gustav, we were in Orange Farm covering the EFF leader there, and amongst his message, at the core of his message, speaking to residents there and EFF members, encouraging them to vote, talking to young people, saying that, their time has come to raise their voice. But pretty much his message was around, the importance of voting and why should residents in Orange Farm and EFF members, vote for the EFF, saying that, enough is enough. Black people have been treated like animals in the past 30 years, saying that if they want change, they must, vote for the EFF, calling them to join the party on its journey in these 24 days as they walk towards the union building, the party there, quite confident that, come election day, they will emerge victorious. Also there, talking to them, Gustav, EFF leader Julius Malema, speaking to them about how the party was intending to create the promised millions of jobs that the party has committed itself to deliver if they are given a chance to govern, saying that amongst the strategies that the party will use will be to hire people as they develop the decaying and fixing the decaying infrastructure of the country, and also saying that they remain committed on their promises when they deliver their manifesto, saying that the elderly will receive the money that they have proposed, as they believe that South Africa has money. Gustav, we know that the program here is pretty much going to start around 2 o'clock when the EFF leader arrives. Since arrival here, we've seen a couple of people making their way here, EFF members wearing EFF regalia to come and hear the EFF leader and the leader of the third largest party in the National Assembly. Gustav.
Thank you so much for joining us, SABC News political reporter Nhlanhla Khatlane, live from Khutsong this afternoon. This is The Week Ahead on the SABC News channel, and we will be back right after this.
One can reasonably believe, considering the fact that Mr. Zuma has publicly made it clear, and one would understand from his statement on the 16th of December that he will not vote for a Ramaphosa ANC. So it is clear, and it cannot be questioned, that the ANC will expel definitely Mr. Zuma from the DC.
Zuma is too old for now, and he have a lot of things happening on him. So he must just abstain, let the people do whatever they want to do. If it's going to help him, but if it's not going to help him, then he can continue whatever he want to do.
Yes, he should go to the DC, and my reason behind that, it's simply because that he should give them the answers. Why did he leave ANC at the first place? And obviously I think that him leaving the ANC without saying anything or without following any procedures wasn't professional.
He has to attend the DC for purposes of stability, both in the MK and the ANC. The ANC cannot sit with a person that is unattended, notwithstanding the fact that they suggest that he has broken or violated the constitution of the ANC. But more so, it is important for Mr. Zuma to attend the DC for the MK's establishment as a political party, because the identity of the MK is still questionable, because it seems to have a relationship with the ANC.
Right, the Umkhonto weSizwe Party has confirmed earlier that party leader and former ANC President Jacob Zuma will attend a disciplinary hearing. And we've heard in the meantime that the ANC does not want to have in-person meetings at Luthuli House after their security assessment on possible gatherings. All of these developments follow Zuma's decision to campaign for the newly formed MK Party. Now, as the face of the MK Party, Zuma's attendance at the hearing has been generating significant buzz. But what will happen next? next. MK Party spokesperson Hamula Ntlela is right here to tell us about that. Thank you so much for joining us here
Thank you for inviting me.
in the studio. So we heard in the last hour that they do not want in-person meetings after the security assessment that has been done. So were you planning to go? Was the president going to be there?
No, absolutely. We'd definitely we'll be there as far as we're concerned. We're there by invite. The ANC invited us over, and they knew very well that wherever President Zuma is, we'll be there to support him. So, for them to also refer to a provocation of some sort, I mean, the mere fact that they can request President Zuma's presence at Luthuli House, for their kangaroo court DC, before the elections is absurd. So, they brought this upon themselves, and President being one person who's not a coward would definitely be there. So, and in person. So, and that's where we're at. That's where we stand.
So our SABC reporter asked him about that, about the timing of this whole event, and he said, well, it's not their timing, it's Jacob Zuma's timing, because he's leading the events.
No, that is absurd. That's totally disingenuous. I mean, the DC sits, and obviously engages with us. They would then obviously invite us in the form of President Zuma. They then set the date and the time. It's not President Zuma that just sets the date and the time. They propose the date, and then they come to a conclusion on the date and the time. So as to why their DC didn't effectively extend it until after the elections is in of itself just very telling. But also, this so-called DC, from our understanding, ought to be independent. Now that they refer to a security assessment and then bring an innuendo of violence, is very telling. I mean, basically, Philemon Balula in his letter has confirmed that the ANC is a violent party. We've attended Durban events. We've attended Bloemfontein. Were there any acts of violence? No. Why would there be acts of violence all of a sudden when we're outside of Luthuli House? So, in effect, he's basically saying that they're a violent party, and if Mkhonto Wesizwe supporters are outside, peacefully abiding to the law, and supporting their president, the ANC supporters would start inciting violence. So, in of its nature, it just incites violence. There was no need for that kind of comment. And it would be interesting to find out which institution is this that did this security assessment that he's referring to, that would incite violence. So the ANC is in of itself a violent party. Fact.
So all of these events, like this DC now, does it keep your eye off the ball in terms of the election campaign or not?
No. I mean, every single platform is an opportunity to campaign. So we're leveraging every single one of those, and they continue to be embarrassed and referring to President Zuma every single day, because they're obsessed with President Zuma, and they're so desperate, to find every single possible way to stop us. But unfortunately, this is a revolution. You can't stop the people. The elections are near. We are ready, and we know come 30th it's going to be a totally different government altogether, and the ANC Ramaphosa is going to get a serious whipping on the day.
You just said this now, and you're getting an enormous amount of attention in the media because of all of these things. Every other day there's a different angle, a different story. We've heard from commentators saying that you're getting far more attention than that should be, or in terms of getting it for free. It's publicity that you're getting out of this. Why do you think is that?
Well, people are tired of the Cyril-led Ramaphosa government in this ANC that doesn't provide water. For the past month, we've not had any load shedding. So it's clear that this load shedding is man-made to benefit themselves and their friends and themselves, in terms of diesel deals. It's very clear what's happening here, So we're saying that everyone that wants to see change, and that's why we're getting such a resounding response and a lot of noise around Mkhonto Wesizwe, because they know people trust President Zuma when he was a president. Black professionals had opportunities. Small businesses, had opportunities with government. Today, there's no BE because of Cyril Ramaphosa. And instead, they're talking about, they refer to their what is this, Zondo Commission and so on and so forth, which in of itself was just a total farce, trying to discredit President Zuma. We're saying that people must come out of their numbers if they want to see true change and vote for Mkhonto Wesizwe, because Mkhonto Wesizwe is the only solution.
Do you view yourself as an ANC faction still? What is going to happen after the election, after the results are in?
We're not a faction. We're not even associated with the ANC in whatsoever way. Mkhonto Wesizwe is a party that's independent and that stands for the people. It's a party that is there to bring about an end to poverty, to bring about free education and emancipate the black child. and bring about also a vibrant economy, which this current Ramaphosa-led government has unfortunately failed dismally at. So we're saying we're a party that's going to seek change and will ensure that that change is effected for the people.
So your breakaway from the ANC will harm the ANC's prospects even more, especially in KZN. Is this one of the things that you aim to achieve, to hurt them?
No, we're not a breakaway. I see you referring to us as being a breakaway. Let me correct that. We're not a breakaway. We're a party that is a civil activist-based party, not a politicized party like what you find in the ANC, where you can only lead if you have credentials. No, we're saying that we're based on civil activism as a party for the people that want to see change and that are patriotic to this country, and that's what we're about.
Reports today in the papers here that MK is at war with itself. One of the reports there saying that specifically after the suspension of the founding member Jabulani Khumalo. How deep is that split within your own ranks now?
There's no split at all. We are united, and we are united against any forms of infiltration and that seek to sow divisions upon the leadership. The leadership is steadfast in terms of what our mandate is and what our mission is. Our mission is a 2/3 majority, and that's what we're focused on. Any elements of rogueness that bring about or rear their funny head, in our organization will be chopped and dealt with. And that's exactly what we're doing. So if we have to cleanse ourselves of problems or opportunists, so be it. We make decisions, no matter how difficult they may be, but we have to take certain decisions to protect the people's mandate, and that's what we do.
Thank you so much for joining us here this afternoon on The Week Ahead. That's the MK Party spokesperson, Hamula Ndlela, joining us here in the studio. Thank you so much. Now, the former ANC Deputy President David Mabuza has joined the Gauteng campaign trail as the province continues to unveil senior ANC heavyweights in its election campaign ahead of the May polls. Let's take you live there now.
Was born. And after Nazareth, MK is born. We'll shoulder on. We'll proceed because the journey that we've started, we think we're almost halfway. We've made progress as the ANC. We're not going to lament about the failures. We don't want these failures to define us. We're going to attend to these challenges and move forward.
Have you had an engagement with former President Jacob Zuma, knowing the close relations you once enjoyed, and particularly knowing that there were rumors that you yourself had ditched the ANC and had gone to MK, hence the statement that came out of your office? Have you had an engagement with your former president, and essentially how would the ANC have dealt with the situation of your former president better in order to avert the current situation?
I think the ANC has followed all the processes. It has done what it can do, and I didn't have an opportunity after the former president left. I didn't have an opportunity to talk to him. I gave space to the leadership to handle the matter. So I think let's allow the DC of the ANC to deal with the matter without our interference. Whatever the verdict, it will be upon the DC. And evidence that is going to be presented before it, counter-arguments, but it's a sad chapter. Of course, we'll have to face it.
Is the ANC panicking about the formation of MK?
We've been through this journey before. Like I told you, we went through the formation of COPE, which was very formidable in my take. EFF, not really formidable. MK, not really formidable in my take. We will survive this one.
Yes.
We will.
Yes. Just Mr. Mabuza, what have you been up to since you've left office? Many people have been asking, where is the cat? Where is David Mabuza? He's nowhere to be seen. He's hibernating. What have you been up to?
Well, I took time to be with my family, to recuperate, deal with my health, getting myself ready for the journey ahead. I'm still with the ANC for the longest time you can think of, until I retire. I've not retired, that's why I'm here. But you must know that I'm fit and sound and good. My health has improved, as you can see. I'm up and about and I'm running.
So 2027 you'll be up and running for 2027?
No, I'm not. I'm not. Don't,
Thank you, colleagues.
Yeah, don't jump the gun. Don't jump the gun.
Thank you, colleagues. That's the very last one.
Yes, please.
The very last
When
question
you were
that we
doing
are done.
door to door, I would presume that people would have used the opportunity to raise issues that they deem pertinent. What are those that you really believe you possibly dropped the ball on as they were raising with you?
Well, one issue here is power outage. Yeah, the problem with Eskom, it has affected their businesses, their household. So they reported on that. And I'm happy because both the metro, the province, they are attending to that problem. And they are also talking about the sewer spillage, which is a matter that the metro is dealing with it. So a number from crime, of course, I learned that the provincial government deployed Deputy Minister Matale. They had an imbizo here, and a few criminals were arrested. So there's a fight, there's a pushback on the side of crime. So well and good, we realize the problems and we are ready to deal with those problems. But we are requesting the people to give the ANC another chance.
Thank you, colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was we are paying over there.
And that was our report there live from Livernote Bosch this afternoon. This is A Week Ahead on SABC News. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back. Assessment on the M1 double-decker bridge is underway, and this follows the fire that broke out in the tunnels beneath the bridge on Tuesday. The fire caused damage to the electricity cables and plunged significant parts of the inner city into darkness. Now, for an update on this, we are joined by Robert Mulaudzi, the spokesperson of the City of Johannesburg Emergency Management Services. Robert, good afternoon and welcome.
Afternoon to the viewers.
Firstly, can you give us the extent of the damage thus far and the after effects?
No, from our side, as emergency services, we cannot really be in a position to give the extent of the damage of the tunnel. I think that one, City Power can be able to give more details as to about the damage. We can only speak about the fire itself, that the fire was extinguished and then we went back there to conduct our inspections just to make sure that the tunnel is safe for our colleagues from City Power to do their work. So we have actually went in to conduct that inspection, and then the incident was officially handed over to City Power to continue with their work. So they should be able to are the ones who should be able to give you more details in terms of what is the way forward of them conducting whatever the assessments they still need to continue to conduct.
Tell us about these tunnels. Are they specifically there at the double-decker on the M1? What is their purpose?
Yes, from our side, that is exactly where we were conducting our firefighting operations on the day when the fire started. Now, I hear you asking about the extent of the damage. I think that one will be the jurisdiction of JRA, who should be able to give you feedback in terms of maybe the structural integrity of the bridge itself, and also in terms of the repairs and of those cables. City Power should be able to give you more details as to the power restoration and what is the way forward going forward, since the the fire has been extinguished, and then that area has been handed over to them to continue with their work now.
Can you tell us whether the stolen cables were recovered? Because we saw reports today that the City Power security team was involved in an exchange of fire with the cable thieves in their makeshift squatter camp underneath the bridge. Do you know anything about that?
No, that will be, it's not our jurisdiction also. That City Power should be able to give you more details about that incident and what is happening now going forward.
So City Power, you refer to them, they've asked for assistance from the army to help them with infrastructure. According to a report today, would you say that could help?
No, I think from my side, as the spokesperson of the fire service, I won't be able to, comment regarding that story. I think City Power or a representative from the city of Johannesburg should be able to give you a full detailed report about the latest development regarding the fire at the underground fire at the double-decker highway.
So, Robert, can you tell us if the road is open now? Can road users use the double-decker at this stage?
Yeah, the road was open, I think, in the evening of the day when we responded to the fire. So, yes, the motorists are using the highway at this stage. There is no any other development up until maybe another statement is issued from the city. Yes, the residents are able to use both the double-deck and South Highway.
Robert, thank you so much. That was Robert Molowitsi, is the spokesperson of the Johannesburg EMS. So in the past hour, the African National Congress briefed the media on its upcoming disciplinary hearing against its former president, Jacob Zuma. Our SABC reporter, Kani Mapanga, is standing by with an update on that. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here in the studio. And what is the latest that you take away from that briefing?
Well, good afternoon to you, Gustav, and to the viewers at home. Indeed, I think the two most important points that we can take away from that briefing is, of course, this upcoming or not upcoming DC hearing of the former ANC president, Jacob Zuma. You may remember a few days ago, we did initially break the story that there was an NDC notice of set down that was served on the former president, informing him that his disciplinary hearing would take place on Tuesday, the 7th of May at Luthuli House. Of course, that was made public. And then we saw MK supporters then rallying, or rather mobilizing, to go to Luthuli House on Tuesday when that hearing was expected to take place in the morning. Then, of course, a leaked letter made the rounds in which the Secretary General advises the NDC, because it's an independent structure, to not hold that hearing until after elections, and he cited security concerns, which he did not elaborate on in the briefing earlier this morning.
So how do you understand it now? Will there be a DC virtually, or will there be no DC?
Well, it's quite difficult because the NDC is an independent structure of the ANC. I mean, it works independently and continues its work despite what's happening in the environment around it. However, it's clear from the Secretary General, I clarified that question twice, that they're not expecting a hearing to take place on Tuesday based on the instruction that was given. But we now have the Umkhonto we Sizwe party stating that that letter, they're seeking legal advice on it. And I've understood, at least from yesterday, that the former president still intends to attend this hearing on Tuesday. And there is another notice of set down, or an amended one, that is making the rounds as well, which suggests that the hearing will now be virtual. But from the ANC side, the Secretary General, he's made it very clear that he doesn't expect that to take place on Tuesday. However, as I've stated earlier, the NDC is an independent structure. They communicate to the charged person what exactly will take place. And from Umkhonto we Sizwe party, that is the party that the former ANC president now leads, they've spoken to you earlier, even confirming themselves that they'll be at the headquarters on Tuesday.
Yeah. Did he say in any way who did this security assessment or not?
Of course, we wouldn't get those kind of details, Gustav. Just citing security concerns, but we do know that these two parties have been in the same vicinity, holding rallies after the electoral court hearing in Bloemfontein, as well as the KZN High Court hearing in Durban. That was a trademark case. Both held rallies outside the court. Both were in court together, and there was no incidents reported on those two instances. So we're not sure what informed the security concerns. However, the Luthuli House has said that they did a security assessment, and to protect and safeguard the property as well as lives, they've decided that that activity should not take place on the Tuesday, the 7th of May.
So the other takeaway involves us here at the SABC.
Absolutely, yes. There's this question or issue rather of the vetting of the head of news, our group executive, the head of news. We've heard from his side the context upon which he found out he would have to go for vetting. We've heard from the presidency, who said that the vetting had not been completed. And then, of course, we've heard from the SABC itself in a statement stating that it was normal for executives to be taken through this process. Of course, this was about getting context from the ANC regarding this issue. Seems that the ANC has distanced themselves from this issue that has taken place, because the concerns really lie in the request taking place just weeks shy of the elections. And we know that the head of news has previously stated that he started the forms of the process about 2 years ago when he first started this position. So the ANC has distanced itself, saying that this is a question that needs to be posed to the SABC to clarify further, with the SG Figin and Balula stating that they are the client and they can explain this issue further, and the ANC is not going to interfere or ask questions about this SSA process that has arisen recently, that the head of news has spoken about and expressed concerns about.
And one still wonders about that polygraph test.
Yes, well, it seems that the head of news had stated that he wanted an explanation in writing regarding who may have been the client or the reasons behind why this was necessitated ahead of the elections. The timing may not be an issue. However, we do know that he was open to subjecting himself to the vetting, just needed writing, or reasons in writing rather, as to what necessitated this call for him to subject himself to this process. But we've already heard from the presidency and the SABC, and then of course this is the ANC's remark on the matter.
Yeah, and saying that we must now ask the SABC itself.
Yes. For the answers regarding what necessitated this request.
Kani, thank you so much for joining us here in studio. SABC reporter Kani Mapanga was there at Luthuli House earlier today. This is The Week Ahead on the SABC News Channel, and we will be back right after this. Welcome back. Non-governmental organisation Mining Affected Communities United in Action, or MACUA, says the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy must take the blame for the tensions brewing in Mononono village near Moruleng in northwest, following Ikwezi Vanadium's alleged continued presence in the area. While Ikwezi has refuted allegations that they have continued mining exploration activities in the community's grazing land since they left the site in 2021, the community of Mononono is demanding that the mining company rehabilitate all their grazing land that was excavated during the collection of samples, and also remove all its equipment and security from this area. The tensions between the community of Mononono and Ikwezi Vanadium, which have been ongoing for almost 4 years now, have previously resulted in violent clashes between the community and mine security, with scores wounded, including police officers. Sentleng Lehihi and video journalist Selo Mogopa compiled this report.
The tension between the Mononono community and Ikwezi Vanadium has been ongoing for almost 4 years now, and has previously resulted in violent clashes between community members and mine security, leaving scores of people wounded. All this began after Ikwezi Vanadium obtained prospecting rights for vanadium in Mononono in 2012 on state-owned grazing land. The resilient and highly sought-after metal is used commercially in steel and cast iron. In 2019, Ikwezi began its bulk sampling operations in the area. Their activities were met with significant resistance from community members who accused Ikwezi of failing to conduct thorough consultations with them. The tug of war between the two has seen both parties in and out of court while tensions continue to simmer. In a written statement, Ikwezi Vanadium confirmed having security posted at the Hakdorenfontein farm but refuted allegations that they had commenced operations on site. This follows the lapse of their prospecting and bulk sampling permits. The company says it has since applied for mining rights for the farm and is awaiting the process to be finalized. And according to Ikwezi, its presence in the area is simply because its sister company is a holder of a valid mining right in an adjoining farm which falls under Limpopo province. In a written statement to the SABC, the Department of Mineral Resources confirmed Ikwezi's submissions and also confirmed Ikwezi's prospecting renewal and permission for Hakdorenfontein Farm to remove and dispose of minerals for bulk sampling. The department says while the mining rights in respect of this farm are still pending, any prospecting or mining operations on the farm would be illegal.
Before the mine can start doing mining, and it should have to communicate with the communities and find out whether they do want the mining or not. And unfortunately, the mine have been continuing to try and do this process of mining without consulting the communities. We even call the department and show them that there are instruments, there are tools that are there and which is there doing the mining. But that needs to be stopped because how did they get it when they didn't really consult the community? There was no procedures followed. But because of the corruption that is taking place with the MRE and the mines, that's why they got the license. And that itself, that's when we have to engage portfolio community where the MRE is reporting to say these are the issues that are happening. And we have engaged, we have stopped this mine, but now it's coming back with confidence because you are backing them up.
Mining Affected Communities United in Action says relations between Ikwezi and the community are too strained to be left unresolved.
Right, the Miriam Makeba Foundation and the University of South Africa's Thabo Mbeki African School of Public and International Affairs will host the second annual Miriam Makeba Lecture. This lecture will be held under the theme Celebrating the Life and Legacy of Dr. Miriam Zenzile Makeba, 92 Years of an African Journey, Mama Africa, Cultural Ambassador, Peacemaker and Cultural Activist. Now, joining us today for more on this is Morris Roda, producer of the Miriam Makeba Lecture. Good afternoon and thank you so much for being with us.
Good afternoon to you, sir, and good afternoon to all those who are watching the program.
Let's talk about what the theme it covers and what the theme is for. What was the thinking behind this theme for this year?
The theme for this year is based on the fact that this year it's 60th anniversary of Mama Miriam Makeba's United Nations speech at the UN when she was pleading to the international world, to the world leaders, to actually, assist to free South Africa from apartheid. So we felt that it's very, very critical that during this month, which is May, it's very, very important that we must remind our people where we are coming from.
So the first lecture was introduced to honor and celebrate a cultural diplomat and a goodwill ambassador. And the second one, like you said now, hosted in the context of that 30th anniversary of South Africa's democracy and the 60th anniversary of her historic speech at the United Nations. How much of these two events hold special memories for the foundation and the attendees at large?
As a matter of fact, this goes beyond the foundation and the attendees. It's about the continent. It's about us as a country that we cannot dare forget where we are coming from. It's very easy for us within this context of our elections year where every focus has been based on the 30 years of our democracy. But we forget where we are coming from. And we are trying to remind South Africans to say, you know what? It's very, very important for us to be looking at what we have achieved within this 30 years of democracy. But we cannot forget where we are coming from. And this is where the likes of your Miriam Makeba were there during those difficult times of our moments in our history. fighting for this country, for the liberation that currently we're taking it for granted, and we cannot. This is why we are trying to make sure that through this memorial lecture, we remind South Africans of where we are coming from, and because of these gallant leaders like Miriam Makeba and her ills, the Huma Sikelas of the world, because so many people paid a price for this freedom we enjoy today. So we dare not take it for granted.
Now, this event is being held at the Winnie Madikizela Mandela building at UNISA, and this is most befitting. Tell us more about this.
Oh, wow, definitely. It's an irony because Mama Winnie Mandela and Mama Miriam Makeba were friends in real life. And when you look at these two heroines of ours, they were never celebrated in their lifetime, both of them. It's good that we are doing this. It's good that UNISA, which I really want to thank them, because luckily enough, UNISA had the vision to honor and celebrate Miriam Makeba while she was alive, which was not the same with Winnie Mandela. So therefore, for us that this lecture is happening, at this building, reminding us of these two great leaders, of what they've done for this country. So there's a lot that we can take home in terms of people who are coming to this memorial lecture, and the general South Africans at large, to say that let's not forget the contribution of these women, who followed in the footsteps of Charlotte Maxeke, what they have done for this country and for the liberation that we enjoy today.
Talk to us about the guest speakers who will share the stage.
We've got amazing speakers. As you might know, last year we had Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, which was befitting because at that particular time she was the Minister of Foreign Affairs when Miriam Makeba was our goodwill ambassador, the only one for that matter in this country, because after her passing, that position has never been filled. And, so that's how we started with Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. And this year, we felt that let's go back to the roots of who Miriam Makeba was. Yes, she was an activist, but she was also a cultural worker, of note. And we decided that let's go in terms of, people to actually smell their roses whilst they are still alive. And we went for Yvonne Chaka Chaka. And also Yvonne Chaka Chaka is one of our unsung heroes, a lady who has represented this country and the continent very, very well, and right in the footsteps of Miriam Makeba. So our keynote speaker today, I'm very, very proud, that Yvonne Chaka Chaka, felt that, she's also honored that she's going to do the keynote address for Miriam Makeba. We'll also have Maralo, we'll also have Zena Hlope, we'll also have Mam Abigail Kubeka, and we'll also have professors from UNISA. It will be a jam-packed program.
Thank you so much for joining us here this afternoon. Morris Rodas, the producer of the Miriam Makeba lecture at UNISA. And that is the week ahead. Thank you so much for spending the past 2 hours with us here on your Sunday afternoon. The news continues right after this on the SABC News channel. From myself and the team, goodbye and take care.